I love the way he speaks.
His advocacy for LGBTQ rights.
He makes culture more accessible to people.
He's also been involved in a lot of charity work.
Very intellectual, but also very approachable.
And of course for all his literary achievements.
A Bit of Fry and Laurie is an absolute masterpiece to my mind. As a PhD student in linguistics, I have a particular fondness about the linguist with his "Hold the newsreaders know squarely, waiter," or "Friendly milk will countermine my trousers."
I've tried to incorporate his work in my research and teaching a couple of times. And once I managed to sneak his work into an eye tracking experiment about language learning. And in that experiment, I used an episode of his documentary, Fry's Planet Word. And the episode was about swear words, about abusive language. And the humor of Stephen Fry caused participants to close their eyes during the experiment because they were smiling. And as a result, the eye tracking data sometimes failed. We had a lot of data loss. So that's a shame, but at least the participants enjoyed themselves. So.
Derek. That's the name of a man in a Fry and Laurie sketch. The man's last name is spelled Nippple-E. The source of humour is a source of inspiration for linguists as well, because it testifies to the arbitrary relation between form and meaning.
My book spells nipple. It does not spell... Have you gone mad?
What Fry and Laurie do is add another layer onto that. Namely, they also add non-verbal signs to that kind of meaning making. This is something that has also inspired linguists. But it took us another couple of decades after this sketch to find systematic ways of uncovering this kind of multimodality and studying it systematically. But this is something that you, Sir Stephen, were already onto back in the 1980s. Good on you.
He always tries to be on the right side of history. Not only with these documentaries, for example, Out There, where he tries to convince his audience that there is nothing wrong with being gay, lesbian, transgender or anything, but he always tries to keep the middle ground.
As I moved through my teen years, I struggled with my identity quite a bit as a queer person, and Stephen Fry, also being queer, has inspired me to be myself more, has inspired me to explore that identity, and especially in the film Red, White and Royal Blue has caused me to look into him more, has caused me to also have a look at some of the interviews he has done, some of the documentaries, and that made me realize I relate with him.
It's all true, Grandpa. Nevertheless, I have directed Palace Communications to issue a firm denial of these accusations.
Dear Sir Fry, this is an authentic Flemish cobblestone. Over the centuries, it has supported the feet of many illustrious men and women here in Leuven, like Erasmus of Rotterdam, or Marguerite Lefebvre, our first female professor, or even the left foot of famous General Melchett during his victory parade in Flanders in 1918. A simple piece of rock becomes a relic when infused with memory, or a witness to history when wrapped in narrative. And that is exactly what you have demonstrated and continue to demonstrate throughout your impressive career. Thank you, Sir Fry, for showing us that true meaning does not reside in objects or facts by themselves, but rather in the stories we bestow upon them.
I grew up in a bilingual family. My mother speaks Dutch and my dad speaks English, but as a child I would really struggle to pick up English. And my dad would always play audiobooks narrated by Stephen Fry, and that was really the moment when I was drawn in by his voice, by his mastery of English, the beautiful words. I was
kind of taught by Stephen Fry not to just desire the mastery of English, but also you have to savor it.
Say Fry, think Greek mythology. For indeed, Stephen Fry is world famous for his retellings of Greek myths. These retellings are well written, they can be enjoyed by everyone, they are full of sparkling, light-hearted humor. Even the footnotes, are a pleasure to read, and they are based on a very thorough knowledge of the material, including all the details. So, say Fry, think Odysseus, the most versatile among men. Say Fry, think Proteus, the most versatile among the gods.
Because of this book, I follow the course Greek Religion and Mythology here at KU Leuven, and it also inspired me to write. I mean, I always wanted to be a writer since I was like 11 or 12 years old, and it was about folklore and mythology. But since this book, it changed to stories about Greek mythology, and it meant so much to me. It has been with me since I was 12, so it's almost 11 years, I believe. And yeah, I cannot describe how much this book means to me.
The warm light of the dying afternoon sun fanned into a shimmering rainbow, which Pylades chose to interpret as a promise of good fortune.
Harry could not move a muscle. He lay there beneath the invisibility cloak, feeling the blood from his nose flow, hot and wet over his face.
What I brought is Stephen Fry's More From Me because this book got me out of the hospital. And the reason for that is 10 years ago in 2015, I had a hemorrhage in my brain, was rushed to hospital. And the first couple of days I couldn't do much at all. But afterwards, after a couple of days, I could read again. And this is a book I was reading. What I did not know is that the nurse observed this and talked to the doctor and said I was ready to be dismissed to go home because I was reading big, serious books in English.
I was inspired by his effortlessly intriguing and comprehensible way of writing about poetry and rhyme and meter. And it made me want to write poetry simply for the pleasure of being and allowing myself to be in these unexplored forms and also in these unfathomable times. I felt that throughout his explanation that he knew poetry in the way it wants to be known, so for its creative freedom to be and to say whatever he wants to say without any need for justification. So I think he made me a little bit braver by doing that.
Stephen Fry inspired me to read new books and to see new movies, and even movies or books that I normally wouldn't consider reading or seeing. For example, his book The Stars Tennis Balls made me familiar with the story of the Count of Monte Cristo. I have a favorite sentence just because it's a typical form of Stephen Fry's humor with language. A couple of hours after this distressing scene, Pete knocked on my door with a cup of tea. Precision, Portia, precision. He knocked on my door with his knuckles, but you know what I mean.
I believe poetry is a primal impulse within us all. I believe we are all capable of it, and furthermore, that a small, often ignored corner of us positively yearns to try it.
There is nothing very appealing about show business memoirs. A linear chronology of successes, failures and blind ventures into new fields is dull enough.
I would like to say thank you, Mr. Fry.
Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Your humor has played an important role in my life.
And therefore I want to thank you.
Hi Stephen, thank you for writing Mythos.
I wish you many prosperous years to come, Sir Fry.
Thank you very much for all the joy that you've brought us, but also for all the wisdom and for all the beauty that you've brought us. So, Sir Stephen, will you play?